University. I'll introduce him to you when we return from this break. Just joining us, this is Society Watch on Atlantic Television Network. And with us on the program today is the Administrative Officer, Student Services Department, and Adjunct Lecturer, Religious Studies Department, Clifford University, Pastor Dr. Obarido Thompson Okuchi. Thank you, sir, for joining us.
Thank you too, Anita, for bringing me on here.
You're welcome. Now let's go straight up to our issues. First of all, we'll be talking about abduction. Gunmen intercept commercial vehicle, abduct passengers in Emoha, River State. Now, 5 passengers of a commercial vehicle have been kidnapped by unknown gunmen along the Emoha-Kalabari axis of the East-West Road. The incident is reported to have taken place on Saturday at about 8 p.m. The vehicle, which picked up passengers at the Choba Junction, was intercepted by the hoodlums and taken to an unknown destination. However, there are reports that the driver of the vehicle was released while the other passengers were yet to regain their freedom. The River State Police Command is yet to comment on the incident, but the civil society organizations in the state has condemned the continued attacks on road users. The chairman of the River State Civil Society Organization, Enefa Judgewell, while calling for adequate security on the road, threatened to mobilize other affiliates of the organization to occupy the road if the 4 chairmen of the local government areas in the affected axis of the East-West Road failed to do something about the security of the road. Now, this is becoming very alarming because in recent times, you find out that there's been recurrent issues of kidnapping along the same road, and more specifically on that particular bad spot of the Emoha-Kalabari axis of the East-West Road. I think it's a major cause of concern. But let's look at the fact that up till now, we've not heard any move from the government in that regard. What's your take on that?
I think that government officers or officials probably have heard because these days, once something happens, it's already viral. So I cannot stand in here for them and say they have not heard. They have. But if they have not yet done anything, maybe they have not communicated with the public whether they have done anything, or if they are doing anything on the ground, I don't know. But in order to allay our fears, they need to come out publicly. That even reminds me of the one I heard 2-3 weeks ago. That one, the driver on that same road, the driver was shot dead. Yeah. We're still grieving on that, and this one has just happened. Someone said, I'm here to confirm that government too did not make a clear statement on that. It's becoming an emergency. So if we can have state broadcasts on other issues, this is the time to have a state broadcast. Yes. Comfort and console the families involved. Comfort and console all of us who are agitated and worried. We have reasons to travel that road as a people, as a population. give us that sense of succor, and then give us assurance something will be done. I have engaged in some other information outlets concerning that road, and from what you have also mentioned here, if that axis involves 4 local government areas, that's a big matter, and it means that we have resources, because one local government could have taken care of the matter, let alone 4 local government areas. From what I heard, the hoodlums positioned themselves strategically at where we call the failed portion of the road, and that is purely, like I said, strategic, because they know that no matter your speed, when you get to the bad spot, you will slow down, and depending on the gravity of the damage, you may even stop. That immobilizes you and simply throws you into their hands. You become vulnerable because you are no more on speed to escape. If it is a bad spot, then at least something is already identified. A problem identified is already half solved. There is a bad spot. Must it expand to the Atlantic Ocean before we repair it? Nip it where it is now. Pour asphalt or mix some concrete and cement. Do something, rehabilitate it, even if it's in health, we'll say first aid. Do something, but to leave a gaping opening there, for how long? And who else should be kidnapped before we will wake up and say, hey, this is more serious? One life is enough. One life is enough, and not to talk of serial events of this nature. So the 4 local government chairpersons, chairmen should come up, and the spot that is spoiled must belong to a particular territory. Let the local government chairman of the spot that is immediately the issue begin the effort and mobilize or galvanize others. This is not the time to just rest on our oars. Let me quickly add this, that Anita, Nigeria is bleeding. We need to, as much as possible, we need to start cutting down on bad news. The ones we have are already inundating. They are overwhelming. Our leaders should not just sit by, and more evil, especially avoidable, preventable evil. Natural disasters we can understand. Assuming Nigeria was seated on where the ground is always having earthquake, there are cyclones, there are hurricanes, and there are tidal waves or tsunamis, one can say those ones are beyond us. What is a bad spot? What should bad spot be an issue? Why?
Sincerely, this is very troubling, given the fact that we don't even know what would happen next. We don't even know when it will happen next, because this has become so recurrent. It's more like in a month we're bound to have 2 or 3 occurrences, and it's very, very alarming. Most annoyingly is the fact that we haven't had any move. Just like you rightly stated, a problem no one is half solved. And since we've realized that it is that particular bad spot that has always been used against these victims, then if that bad spot is fixed, then we're halfway out of this challenge. But again, let's also look at the timing. This happened at about 8 p.m. Don't you think, given the whole news of abduction on that particular axis, that commuters, passengers, people traveling should be conscious of their movement and time?
Yes, they should. It's just that people feel that it's our country. We ought to move freely. So sometimes the love for the country, the fact that you want to still have hope for Nigeria, we may have to do what Jesus said: be wise as the serpent, be harmless as the dove, and let's watch this. So I will align with you and say, my people, please, that axis for now. Do not travel when it is dark, when you cannot see the face of the next person, opposite you. For now, let's so we can give the government, the local government councils that are affected by that axis, and then the state government itself. Let's give them opportunity to solve the problem. There are several things to do there, if you permit me. Apart from repairing or rehabilitating the bad spot on the entire road, let's 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 make sure that there is all round security check, because I am aware that there is security, but I don't know what happened within that period, because for so they can turn a blind eye. I'm not saying that's what exactly happened this time, but yeah, please, yeah, a possibility. They could just say, "Hey, guy, we want to go operation. I beg you, we want to pull out." It can happen. It does happen, and before you know it, it will look like there was no security, because we're not hearing that there was a shootout between the security agents and the hoodlums, and probably one of them went with bullet wounds or whatever. There's nothing like that, which shows that the place was empty. If the news of what news we're hearing is enough, it means there was nothing there to resist. I'm saying, let it not be that there was an arrangement, backhand arrangement, that made them give way.
Let's
not
even
hope so.
think of
Yes.
that right now. But I think this is when our security operatives need to swing into action. I mean, we don't have to lose too much people before we do the right thing. The government, everyone in government, you owe us a duty to protect us, at most to the best of your ability. So it's time to stand up for your people. Okay, let's just move away from that and straight up to Abia State. Governor Ikpeazu is set to demolish 10,000 buildings to implement Aba Master Plan. Abia State government has warned that 10,000 buildings would be demolished to realize the Aba Master Plan, which will improve the economic and aesthetic potentials of the city. The state government is partnering with the United Nations Human Settlement Program UN Habitat team to restart the state structural plan, which was initiated 30 years ago by the first military administration of Abia State, Group Captain Frank Ajobena. Commissioner for Land Survey and Urban Planning, Dr. Chidi Onwuchuruba, who disclosed this at a 3-day stakeholders meeting with the UN Habitat team in Aba, noted that successive administrations in the state had made efforts to demolish illegal buildings and sanitize the city, according to the master plan, but couldn't achieve the dream. Describing the structural plan as a legacy project with multiple positive effects, Onwuchuruba commended governor and officials who visit building sites to monitor compliance with guidelines. The commissioner urged property owners to build according to specifications to avoid building collapse, warning that those who contravene the building code will face the wrath of the law. Now let's look at the fact that the Abia State government is trying to demolish 10,000 buildings in order to actualize the Aba master plan. According to him, when that plan is actualized, it is going to add up to the economic growth of the city and overall outlook of the city. What's your take on that?
To begin with, much of Aba as a city, fondly and lovingly called Eyimba City, much of that city is unplanned. It just grew from the crucible, like a village. Just houses here, structures here, facilities this way. So much of Aba was not planned. It's an old city. The history of Nigeria is incomplete without Aba. It's an old city. It was one of those cities that was just started growing. Wasn't really planned. Much of it. Some parts are planned, but not much. So you can expect that in the course of modernization, there is this sudden realization we needed to have done this. Our leaders, our politicians, they travel. They see the beauty, the symmetric arrangements of structures in cities. So they are dreaming that such a thing ought to have happened. But we didn't start early. We always start wrongly. We don't start right first time. We start wrong first time. That's why there's always demolition. And forgive me for digressing. That's the reason why when we want to do flyover here in River State, the flyover has to go over people's bedrooms, people's toilets, people's parlors, people's shops, because we don't start right. Demolitions always happen. So if the Aba Master Plan laid 30 years ago is now to be realized 30 years after, it's another ridiculous thing. Well, I won't stay here in this studio to jeopardize the status of your studio by saying it's a wrong thing to start it. Let us do it. But we have to be sensible about it. Number one, is this administration they want to do it, or are they just
trying to lay the foundation?
Are they laying another foundation upon a foundation? I really don't know, because this is September. And I am to hand over, if I am to hand over May 29, today is September 19. It means I have barely 8 months, as it were. Am I going to demolish 10,000 housing units and pay compensation and rehabilitate them within 8 months? Do I have the resources? Because 10,000 units of houses, that's nearly, I'm not a quantity surveyor, but I'm just looking at billions of naira because of the cost of things now. Do we have that now? Or is it something that we will start with maybe 50 units, compensate them, wait for the next money to come, pull down another 100, and then wait for the other administration, the incoming government, to complete it? I do not know, because what I wouldn't want is, Anita, that you pull down my house, you promise me compensation, I am squatting somewhere still waiting for the compensation, and then the next thing is that a new government has taken over from the government that pulled down my house, and then they start all over to capture. They come for registration, come for filling this form, and then before you know it, I'm spending another 4 years for a house that the timing was inconvenient. The timing was wrong. So this timing now is my worry. Can the governor now pull down my house, pay me my compensation before he leaves? Because the Pharaoh that knows Joseph, or will understand Joseph, a Pharaoh that knoweth not Joseph, then give Joseph a problem.
A big one. That's a very big one, because while, just like you've said, it's very good to have a proper plan, and especially for a city like that. But this wasn't done in the last 30 years, and it's a good thing that Governor Ikpeazu deems it fit to do that now. But how about the occupants of these 10,000 houses? I mean, this should be over 10,000 people, given the fact that a house should harbor at least 2 or more. And so if we have this number, what's the plan? There is no plan on ground for these people. You want to move out people from their houses within the space of how many months that you have to be in office, and there is no other plan for these people. In fact, most people have been saying, okay, you want to actualize this. It took you over 5 years to actualize the flyover, the Osioma Bridge.
That's true.
And how long do you think you can actually meet up this master plan within your short stay in office? Or are you trying to create another avenue for you to more like put burden on the next person that is going to come into office while you leave other residents suffering?
Aba people should be engaged in real discussions. Sincerely, I want to, with due respect to my governor, Okeze Victor Ikpeazu, I want to appeal. Let there be so much engagement that the citizens, the residents should be able to say, wow, what a beautiful conversation. let everything be ironed. If it means holding on until there is real engagement to the point that citizens will celebrate an opportunity to have a conversation with the governor until details, literally details are taken care of. If it will get to that point, and even if that would delay the demolition, as long as there was a satisfactory synergy, I will like it, because the criticisms he will go with, if things are not properly lined up, may dent his image as he lives. And you know, you should be living when the ovation is loudest, not living in a manner that people almost swear. This tail end of his administration, he should not dent it. He should leave a taste. He should leave a fine taste on the memories of the residents of Aba as he prepares to vacate office. Engage residents of Aba. Use all kinds of town planning meetings, all kinds of avenues and fora, please. And let Aba people give a nod, overwhelming nod, satisfactory nod. Like we have said before, the master plan itself is okay. It is the implementation pattern that may give us headache and bellyache. It should be done smoothly. The tension in the country is already so much. The satisfaction with leadership is already so much. Let us not add insult to injury.
Thank you very much. I think that's the best advice anyone would give at this time, because you need to get the people to see reasons, first of all, with the need for this Aba master plan, and also to get to know from them how best to go about this. For me, citizen engagement, just like Dr. Paul Okochi has said, is the best thing to go by right now. Get the people involved in all this. Okay, let's just move away from that issue and straight up to indecent dressing. Anambra State government bans shorts, uniforms, skirts, gowns in public private schools. Now, schools are set to resume on Tuesday. The Anambra State government says it has banned the wearing of short skirts, even gowns, by female students in schools. The Commissioner for Education, Professor Ngozi Chumaude, said the ban is for both public and private schools in the state. The commissioner, who met with education secretaries of public and mission schools at the weekend at the Anambra State Universal Basic Education Board, ASUBEB, described such a mode of dressing as morally wrong. Well, I want to agree that it is actually morally wrong for students, female students, to wear very skimpy dresses to school. But again, trying to make this like a bone of contention, and given the fact that we have a whole lot of challenges with our school system in recent times. We've had a whole lot of attacks on education. We have a whole lot marring people. Okay, for example, in Anambra at the moment, in fact, most people argue that students only go to school 4 days in a week, given the sit at home and all that. There are a whole lot of challenges affecting education in this region. Do you think this move is coming at the right time?
Well, there's no wrong time to do what is right, actually. There is no wrong time to do what is right. Indecent dressing should worry us, because it carries along with it a lot of other implications. It affects the mind. So to cover up properly is fine. Maybe if the approach is the issue, government can be advised to sit back again and re-strategize. But as for the issue itself,
Yeah.
it's okay.
It's a good one.
It's okay. Let's because they are still young. We need to mold them. It is true that what we see on social media, on television, on the internet, whatever, people dress anyhow, or in fact, very provocative or almost naked. But we will still maintain our traditional values. The values of decent dressing, decent appearance should be there. My only worry, or one of the worries I have, is we seem to make it look like it's just the girls. Boys also dress indecently, beginning from their hair. I don't know if you have noticed these days the kind of hair that our boys wear. It's as if they are wearing spiked we wear before. So people, we should pay attention to. In fact, we should not call it indecent dressing alone. We should just call it indecent appearance. So when we elevate it, when we escalate it to appearance, it means it will include the boys
Okay.
and the girls. Let us not forget that boys also sag. You know what I mean? They bring this thing down. It's on the buttocks, and then you see the boxers or the pants.
And sustenance of this, because most times we come up with a whole good and beautiful measures, beautiful plans and rules, but the ability to sustain them over time.
Part of the challenge why we will not have sustainability is because we are attacking the outside. We're not attacking the matter from the inside. You see, I am not decent in my mind, so it reflects in my appearance. Like I keep saying, let's not limit it to dressing. Just my appearance. I could keep my beards shabby, long. I could just do anything, look like something that probably just something packaged from hell, because I don't care about my appearance. It's from my mind. It's from my mind. So what we should be working on our people is home education and church education, because a lot of Nigerians go to church or go to the mosque. And then we also have, so apart from the home, you have the church, and then the school, and our billboards, public places where we will project the right mind. Decent minds will reflect in decent appearances.
All right. Thank you very
That's what we
much.
should be doing.
So it's on us, not just the outward, but it should come move away from that and look straight up to this ASU strike. It's for me, students, NANS have fulfilled their promise of blocking the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Ikeja. NANS protesters early hours of today took their protest to the Murtala Mohammed International Airport in order to make the government suffer what the students have suffered in the past 7 months. Recall that the students had embarked on a 4-day closure of highways and expressways, which they described as successful, which is why it's heavy.
Anita, this country is really bleeding, and it's behaving like the man who was struck on the road from Jerusalem to Jericho and left to die. That's the way Jesus put it in the parable. The man was beaten, was robbed, was wounded, was injured, and left to die. That's the way our leaders, it appears to me, are treating this country. You rob the country, you beat the country, you injure the country, you wound the country, and then, to make matters worse, you leave it to die.
Calling off the strike.
Whether it makes any impact or not, it has been done. It's a statement. Yes. It is a statement. They are making a statement. We cannot watch our destiny mortgaged by those who don't care, those who have pilfered this country, pillaged the country, stolen, robbed.
Statement, and it's loud enough, and everyone at this point can see and hear that the Nigerian students are actually not comfortable with the over 7 month strike by the academic staff universities union. And we just hope that this is going to actually touch the government to realize that these students, they've actually been quiet. You know, most people kept saying, oh, ASU has not been serious with this, they should have done this, they should have done that. I think this move alone should go a very long way to cause a change. Well, we just hope, we'll keep hoping that someday this drama will come to an end and our students will go back to school. Let's just move away from that issue and go straight up to Plateau State. Masquerades attack church, flog worshippers in Langtang South local government area of Jos. Masquerades on Sunday morning invaded a church.
Here in this country, a lot of things just happen. Online, as I went online, I discovered that masquerades invading churches, they have happened before.
Yeah.
So what was done to those ones?
That's the
And
point.
so if I'm a masquerade in 2015 and I invaded a church, maybe Catholic church, nothing happened. 2016, I'm still a masquerade. I will go to Apostolic church. Nothing happens. 2017, I will go to an Adventist church. Nothing happened. Then I'll go to Baptist church. I'll go to Redeemed, just like that, because nothing has happened. Has any masquerade been jailed for invading? Are there no laws guiding such a thing? Are there no infractions that can be brought up against a masquerade? Because we live in impunity, a world of impunity. That's why it's going on this way.
It's very appalling. I just realized that not too long ago, the police commissioner in Akwa Ibom State had placed a ban on masquerade activities on the basis of perpetration of violence. And if you try to look at that, don't you think that that move, because most people were like, no, this is tradition and custom of the people and you shouldn't stop it. But if masquerades can go about this, which I don't think is part of the traditional rights, don't you think it is actually right, like the commissioner of police in Akwa Ibom was actually right when he put a ban on masquerade activities?
Hold the traditional ruler accountable. I do remember, if you permit me to digress a little, just for the purpose of illustration, there was a time when my governor, Governor Nyesom Wike, he was flagging off the road construction in a chase zone, if I remember clearly, and he said, please, oh, I don't want the workers to be kidnapped or harassed. If anything should happen, any particular axis, the traditional ruler of the axis where workers were kidnapped and taken off the work, he will be deposed, he will be removed.
Okay.
Yes. Do you know that the Che Road now is progressing well? Not one day have we been told that one person was picked and then they are negotiating 5 million or 10 million ransom. Because he has said, if anything happens, I will come to that spot and the traditional ruler in charge of that area where the worker was picked will be held responsible, held accountable, and deposed. The police commissioner in wherever the masquerade is worrying, just all we need to do is you consult with the state government, traditional ruler. If a masquerade invades a church again with impunity, unprovoked attack, then you will be removed. Since you are the traditional ruler, it means you are the custodian of the traditional values of your community. So if there is a breach of the traditional values by your masquerade, you are removed for want of control. And then you will see everybody will sit up. Of course, they will call masquerades are not are not spirits. They're actually human beings. They are our brothers, they are our sisters. They enter into the into that cabin and they put on all those things. That's when they become masquerades. But when they remove those things, they become our friends, they become our neighbors, they become our schoolmates. So we know them, we know the masquerades, we know those who enter the masquerade. So call them in a meeting. Tell them that my position as national ruler is at stake. If you do this again, why did you go to churches? And all will be well.
Well, that I really appreciate what you said. Over the years, since they've been, because I even looked in 2016, there was an incident in Ekiti State where masquerade went into a church. I even used bottle to hit on someone's head, a worshiper in church. So if we can hold these traditional rulers accountable, then I think we'll have minimal experiences of these hazards in our society, because it's quite hazardous when masquerades leave their line of actions, leave for to carry out their rights, traditional rights and cultural whatever, and go into churches. It's way out of there. In fact, most times you realize that on the roads, I remember when I was serving in the East, when you're applying the road, you see masquerades on the road collecting tips. And if the driver doesn't give to them, the harassment is way out of it. So I think at this point, the traditional institution need to be looked into. They need to, maybe a reorientation or something. What's your take?
Sure, that's what it should be. And then the masquerade, the masqueraders.
Yeah.
Those are the human beings with flesh and blood who put on the masquerade. Those masqueraders need to be schooled again on what our culture, because you don't know what they are smoking. Permit me, I'm sorry. You don't know what they smoked when they entered. And they will say it's the spirit. It's the spirit of the ancestors. But there's another spirit. Who knows what they have taken? Who knows what they have injected? Who knows what they have eaten? So please, there should be clear reorientation. There should be a selection process. They should see themselves as ambassadors. No more rascality. No, they're not rascals. They're ambassadors of the traditional values of that community. So when a rascal takes over instead of an ambassador, it should be removed for cause. Otherwise, there will be more uproar and calamity and opprobrium, in the community.
All right, thank you very much. So the onus right now is on the traditional rulers who are custodians of our culture and tradition. They must ensure that beyond using this as to cause mayhem in the society, but that the traditional values for which these masquerades are set up, for which they are put in place, are not abused. Okay, this is the much we'll take on today's program. Thank you, Dr. Coach, for joining us.
Thank you so much. God bless.
Bless you too. And thank you, our viewers, for being out there. I hope you join us again tomorrow for another interesting time. I am Anita Obari. You can follow us on our social media platforms: Twitter at Atlantic TV Net, Facebook and YouTube at Atlantic Television Network, Instagram at Atlantic TV Network. Do remember that peace and unity are the pathways to progress.